Hello musicians, welcome back. My name is Bucky Durdle and I am doing a tutorial today on how to use Complex Simpler. Complex Simpler, love the name. This is a sampler program, a sampler module by, I'm going to say NYSTHI, Nysynthi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. They make some really good modules. You might want to check them out. They're fantastic stuff. I'm going to be just doing some tutorials on some of the modules, so stay tuned. Now you see we have a big layout here in Rack. I'm not going to be using, you're not going to have to know how all this works. I just have this set up for our sound today. So just so we have something we can actually sample. So now I'm going to zoom way in so we can focus on Complex Simpler. And here we are. It's Complex Simpler right here. Let me move that over. Okay, so now first of all, this is a sampler. A sampler is a module that lets you work with audio. It lets you record audio and then manipulate that recording. Very cool. A lot of interesting things this does. Now I have, in this tutorial, I'm going to go over how to record sound in the Complex Simpler, how to play back sound, how to control the CV for triggers, for both the playback and recording, recording stop and start, and recording as well. And I'm going to talk about anti-click. Okay, and in future tutorials, I'm going to talk about a lot of other things. Now, I have this set up. I've connected to the outs of my mixer here, and I also have it, the outs of my sampler are connected to the mixer in, and I also have some outputs my mixer going into my sampler, so I can get sound into the sampler. Okay, so that's where these are connected to the outs of my mixer. Okay, so I'm going to push play on my clock, push go on my clock, and we're going to record some sound. To record, all I have to do is click the trigger record button right here. And there you go. Now the clock is running. I'm given some sound, and I can let that run for quite a while. I don't know if there's a limit on how long the sampler will run for, but it's pretty long. When I'm ready to stop recording, and by the way, as you can see the red light right here means that we're recording, so I can push record again to stop. There you go. And now I'll just turn my clock off, and I'm going to turn down the volume on that guy right there. Okay, now we have a sound sample. So let's push play, push trigger start to hear the sound sample. There you go. We have a recording made. Now this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Let's just talk now a little bit about how I did this. Okay, first thing, I hit record, which is right here, or above the fine. I hit trigger record, and that started my recording. That will record anything coming into the inputs at the very top of the sampler. I could have also triggered the record with the trigger. I could have ran it off of something like this, like a trigger right here. And that would have started the recording. Now, a little word of advice. If you hit record again, you run the risk of overwriting something you've already recorded. So if you do have something recorded, output the file, set it aside, and then start again. The way you can output a file is and I'm going to go over this again and again and again in these tutorials, but you go save WAV file. That's it right there. So save WAV file, and that will let you output your recording to a WAV file, and you can start again. Okay, so that's how you actually record. Now, you heard me play back. Let's look at how we play back. You can see that the waveform is down here in the bottom, and I'll talk about zoom another time, but I can make my waveform a little bigger just to see it. Trigger start, I can run this off a trigger. So let's do that. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry, didn't mean to move the screen on you. We can trigger to start by hitting my trigger button right here. And I can hit the trigger right here. Does a start for me. Okay, now I also want to be able to stop as well. Now there's a stop button right here, and you just saw me click it. So I push play, I can push stop right here. I can also trigger the stop. So I hate those gray cables. There we go. So I can trigger my stop with this guy. So start and stop. Now you may say, Bucky, yeah, you're just hitting a button and there's buttons right here. Why don't you hit those? That's not the point. The point is that this trigger could be a sequencer. It could be the trigger off another sampler. It could be all kinds of things. It could be an LFO. And this could be as well. So you can have triggers from all kinds of different sources. But that's how it works. Trigger on, trigger off. Piece of cake. This is real easy stuff once you do it a couple times. Now, that's that. Now, another thing. I'm going to stop in the middle of some sound. I'm going to push stop. And I want you to listen for a click. Did you hear the little pop? Oh, that one's so loud. Yeah, there's a little tick. Well, when you make your sample first, just as the sound starts, sometimes you may have a little pop at the beginning of your sample. You'll hear it. And at the end, you may find the same thing. You may have a pop at the end of your sample. Anti-click gets rid of that. What anti-click does is it puts a small fade out at the beginning and a small fade out at the end. Depending how much you increase this, you're going to have a different amount of fade in and fade out. And that will have the volume turned down when that click happens. Now, and the reason for the click is if you think about the sound cycle, we've looked at our scope many times, and you see a waveform where it goes above the center line and below the center line and above the center line and below. Well, if your waveform happens to be above or below the center line, when your recording starts, that will cause a pop. I've done tutorials before in Audacity on how to remove that by just doing a small fade out and fade in on Audacity, but this here Complex Simpler does it for you automatically with anti-click. So that's something you might want to use. Okay, I'm going to stop the tutorial there because I don't like to make long tutorials, and we've already been 7 minutes. This is going to we just covered how to record, how to save, how to play back and end, and how to trigger a start and a stop. And we also covered anti-click. I'm going to be covering all the other little functions of this Complex Simpler in more tutorials, so be sure to check out more. Thank you for watching this one. Good luck in your music. Be sure to support the developer of this Complex Simpler, which is Nisynthi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And let me know if you have any questions. Give me comments in the comment section of this post. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.